That's why they say that like your significant other is so important. And if you notice, a lot of really successful guys have a really good wife. Day 34?
I think he's 37.
What? Dang, I'm way off, dude. Like Grant Cardone, I think about him, Andy Elliott, Ryan Pineda, you know, all these guys have like really great wives, and it makes your life so much easier when you're not like in that whole phase of like always finding something new. Because when I feel like something's new too, you do what is like almost not even reasonable and like sustainable, you know? Yeah. It's fun, and you're like, oh gosh, that's so awesome, I'm meeting somebody new, but it's not sustainable. Whereas like when you get somebody that's gonna be there for the long haul, you start to work your life around what is gonna be the best for us, and then you figure out that life. And so that has its own challenges in itself too, is a lot of times you have to then create the spontaneity that's gonna keep it fun, right? Yeah. And so then you have to be intentional with that. How do I keep this fun? But I have both sides of me, where I like the spontaneousness, and then I like the routine. And so whenever I'm in the spontaneity, I'm like, oh man, I want to go back. I can't wait until we get in the routine of things. Then you get in the routine of things, you're like, oh man, I can't wait until we do some more spontaneity stuff. So anyway, I think it's just about creating that in the relationship. But all of that to be said, I think it's so much easier to be successful as a married person with a good significant other who supports you, wants to grow, wants to do that stuff, and helps you to create it, I guess, or supports you, I guess, whatever side of that you want to be on. But for me, I think I'm still deciding on that, actually, if I want somebody like, okay, have it like Andy Elliott where they're in the business, or have it like, you know, Ryan Pineda, where she's not so much as involved in the day-to-day. She's more like supporting, which she is getting more involved now, which is pretty cool. But anyway, that's cool. Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit of mixture of both. But I always mix friends with business anyway. Makes it a little more complicated, but it makes it a whole lot more fun. Oh yeah. So makes it a lot more complicated, but it is fun. But anyway, yeah, I think that there's a certain amount of stability and like, I don't know how to describe it. Basically, the way I think about it, it's kind of like if somebody is with you, you're not out there searching all the time, you kind of get this constants, right? And the more constants that you can create in life, the more variabilities you can have over here. And it's like you have something to kind of fall back on. So like some of my constants that don't change are going to be like things like my spirituality, like my relationship with Jesus. Like that's my foundation, where it's like, okay, that's my constant. And so no matter what happens, I'm going to have that, even if I die, right? The other things that I want to be constants are going to be like my health, my working out, my habits, my rituals, stuff like that. Those are going to be some more constants. Other constants that I like to have are like my house. So like my personal house, I've been there since 2016. And I like to keep that as a constant, because when you're moving around, it does start to make things unsettling. Not to say that I won't ever move, but I still like it being constant. So anyway, I think that a significant other is very similar to that, where having that constant really helps to create the all the uncertainty into the other areas, as opposed to like whenever you're meeting new people and stuff, a lot's uncertain. You don't know who they are, who they're going to be, which is kind of exciting in the beginning, but then it kind of gets old. I was already getting tired of it after a month and a half of just like going on dates. Like I was already over it. I'm like, dude, can I meet somebody that, good one. Can I meet somebody that I'm like actually interested in? Funniest part is this girl that I met that I've been really vibing with has, she downloaded that app, and then like, I wasn't the first one that she matched with, but I was the first one that she actually like dated. And, I was the first one that, she went on a date with and stuff. So she only had the app for a day. Then like, dang. Yeah, then we matched. I'm like, you are so lucky. You are so lucky. Not, I mean this in the sense of like I was telling her, I'm like, not in the sense that like, oh, you found me and like I'm this great guy or whatever, but it's like lucky in the sense that like you found somebody that you're actually interested in within the first couple, because that does not happen very often.
You're lucky too that happened for her, because it happened for you too. Like, it's a good thing that happened to her, because it led her to you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
100%. It's a win-win, dude. Because yeah, I feel the same way. And then that's what I think about too. Is like, well, if it works out, dude, I mean, it was worth all the bull crap I went through. And that's what I kept telling myself is like, well, I really believe that God has a plan and I'm just going to have to trust it. And I know it'll be worth it. And so like I was even telling Andrewski that he was like, I don't know if I should pay for it. I'm like, bro, how much is that worth?
Yeah.
But I just mean like literally, how much is that worth? I want to read the Bible quote that talks about this. Proverbs 31:10, an excellent woman. Who is he who can find her? Her value is more precious than jewels, and her worth is far above rubies or pearls. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She comforts, encourages, and does him only good and not evil all the days of her life. So yeah, that's what I think about whenever I was describing that, of like, man, how much is that worth to have a woman like that? And like, to me, it's worth like everything. Yeah, it's every area of life. And so yeah, I'm like, man, the value of that is infinite. So it's worth honestly a lot of sacrifice, because that's the other thing too. It's worth time, sacrifice, money, like everything that you can say that would be like valuable or contribute. Like, man, that'd be worth it, because again, it'll help in every area. And then the goal would be to have both people contributing to where it's worth it for both people, right? So it's not just like the woman gives to the guy and then now the guy's like, oh yeah, he gets all this stuff. It's more of like the more that he gets, the more he wants to give. And that's why I always kind of like look at friendships. And I remember when Tony and I first started in this business, that's what it felt a lot like. You know, we were kind of like, it was like a healthy competition in some ways, but then we're working towards the same goal. So it's so fun because it was like, who could outwork who? And then we were both working with each other, right? So as we're both outworking each other, we're actually both working with each other to accomplish the same things, but it's kind of fun. So that's kind of the way that I see a marriage and relationship, is like, who could outserve, who could outlove, who could outdo the other. And then it's just like this reciprocation. It's like both of you are kind of competing, not to prove that. That's a big difference though. It's not to prove anything. It's not to be like, oh, I'm a better husband than you are wife. It's not like I'm a better business partner or anything like that. It's more of like, now I want to give you as much love as I possibly can, and then the other person wants to do it right back. So that's kind of what I think about.
Do you feel like that's kind of lost, or like less, doesn't happen that often nowadays?
Do I feel like it's lost or not happen? Yeah, I think it is, because a lot of times it's exactly what I was just saying, is like, people feel like if they're competing or like loving or anything like that, it's like sometimes it's almost like a sense of proving, and they're like, I don't want to have to prove my love or anything like that, and they should just love me for who I am and all this. It's like, that's true, but also love is an action in a lot of ways, right? And so I don't know, I've thought a lot about this, because I'm like, man, what is love, right? So when you think about love is, it's hard to love someone without doing anything that would be beneficial to them, which sounds weird to people, but it's true. Like, why are you friends with your friends, right? It's not just because you're in association with them. They give you something, whether it's dopamine hit or like, you know, friendship. Like, you're there for a reason to get something from that relationship. And if it's not serving you in some capacity, you're probably not going to be in the friendship, right? Or in the relationship. Yeah. And so I think the relationships are the same way. If you stop talking to them, if you stop showing up, if you stop loving them, it's pretty unlikely that you guys are going to stay together. And so, yeah, I think that love is a reciprocal thing. And now I think it's going to have ups and downs, and there's going to be times where there's more or less. Yeah. But I do also know that the more that you contribute to it, the more the other person wants to contribute as well. But a lot of times we're just waiting. We're waiting on the other person to do that for us, right? Instead of being the one that's like, I am going to love them the best that I possibly can. It's like, no, they haven't loved me in a while, so I'm not going to do that for them, which is where I think it gets difficult. Or they give so much and they don't have their own boundaries that they forget who they are, which also happens a lot of times. I see a lot of women do that. They will give up and like let go of all their boundaries instead of focusing on like, okay, I'm going to love him the best that I can, unless I'm going to lose myself and lose my self-respect. So I want to be very clear, I'm not saying that either. You got to find, how can you love them the absolute best that you can be without resenting them or they're taking anything from you. And a lot of times the way that I'm able to do that, or actually able to show up in love, is whenever I am doing whatever I need to do to get my own value, to get my own like self where I feel good about myself. And then I'm gonna go to them and like, I have a full cup. So I'm like, all right, let me go love on them because maybe they're down in this moment. So I heard this quote once and I really liked it. Instead of saying like, you know, I'm gonna do this for you and I'm gonna live all this stuff for you, it's like, I'm gonna take care of me for you and I want you to take care of you for me. And so what that means is basically like, I can't help you read the Bible or force you to do that or anything like that. If you do that though, and you're close in your spirituality and you're taking care of your health, you're doing that for another person sometimes. And so they will give you strength to be like, I want to show up better for this marriage. And that can give you strength in order to do the hard things. And so that's what I mean by like, I'm going to do what I need to do for the other person. Because a good relationship will make you want to be better. And that's why I feel like I've talked about that the other day is like, I want to be better for my future kids. I want to be better for the LTD team. I want to be better for my future wife. Like that's just important for me. And so use that motivation to be a better person and be closer to the person that you want to be. And then, yeah, then I think you can show up and then love the other person even if they're not loving you. Yes, sir. Last thing I'll say on this is a lot of times we blame the other person for what we are not doing because we feel like it's their fault. And what I found in my life is it's always my fault. It's always like I'm blaming them because they're like, oh, well, they'll be upset. They'll do this. They'll do that. All right, they can be upset. But if it's going to stop you and hold you back from hitting your standards and what you believe is right in your life, you're still the one holding your back. So you just have to have that conversation with, hey, look, this is where I want to go. And a lot of times it's just a hard conversation that we're actually trying to avoid as opposed to like, you know, worrying about somebody else. Because most of the time they might be upset, which is fine, but that's for them to deal with because a lot of times that's their own insecurities that they have to deal with as opposed to like you are so worried about them that you're gonna hold yourself back. Then you're gonna blame them for it when really it's you doing it. It's just you. You can still do it. You just have to deal with them being upset. And you're so worried about that you won't do it. But anyway, all that to be said is it's still your fault, your responsibility to make sure that you recognize that it's you. So yeah, that's what I would say, buddy. I've noticed that in my life.
Yeah, buddy.
Yes, sir. Holy crap, I'm sweating.